Hello and welcome to the video. I am back finally. These last 3 weeks I haven't been feeling the best. I've had colds and flu and stuff like that, so yeah, it's just not been possible for me to make these videos, so I do apologise for the wait. I was hoping to have got at least 2 more of these videos out within the last 2 weeks. I've just not been well enough to make the videos, but I am feeling better now. I'm still not 100%, but I'm here to make the next video. This is episode 4 of Christmas Essential Nintendo Switch games you should buy this year for 2024. I'm enjoying making these, and I'm kind of wanting to get these out before, you know, people really start to rush and get the last minute Christmas presents. So here we go, let's do it. 10 more Nintendo Switch games that are super essential for Christmas in 2024. Here we go. Super Mario 3D World Bowser's Fury. This is basically a traditional 2D Mario game set in the style of a 3D Mario game. That's awesome. Like, it's a really great Mario game. I actually think this is one of the best Mario games that's ever been made. It's a mainline 3D Mario game. This, however, is more of a hybrid game with the 2D Mario games. What I mean by 2D games, I mean like levels where you go from A to B, there's a goal at the end of the level, and you're supposed to get like to the other side. You're supposed to go from your starting point and get to a destination in the level. And throughout that level there is like platforming to do, there's different little obstacles to pass. So this is basically what Super Mario 3D World is. It's a game where you play as one of 4 characters, and you can play as either Mario, Luigi, Toad or Peach. And what you'll do with these characters is you will go through different levels and stages. Every level has some kind of twist to it, some kind of gimmick. There is a beach themed world, there's a sand themed world. There's also a Bowser themed world, like the very final kind of world, which is the final area of the final part of the game where you finally confront Bowser. Now, this was a sequel to the Nintendo 3DS game known as Super Mario 3D Land. So Super Mario 3D World was able to take the mechanics of Super Mario 3D Land and improve upon them, and basically turn it into a bigger and more fully fledged game, which was originally released on Nintendo Wii U and then moved over to Nintendo Switch. However, this game on the Nintendo Switch, this version, has come with an expansion pack known as Bowser's Fury. Now, Bowser's Fury is an interesting one because it's basically a 3D Mario game. It is like Super Mario Odyssey, but with 3D world mechanics. And it's amazing. Honestly, it's one of the best Mario games ever made. Playing this game for Bowser's Fury alone is pretty much really worth it. I would really recommend just getting this game for Bowser's Fury, because Bowser, he's gone mad. He has gone crazy. He has turned into this gigantic monster made of muck, and he is angry. He is furious. Mario's objective in this game is to team up with one of Mario's enemies known as Bowser Jr., who is Bowser's son. And what we do in this game is we have to go through different worlds in this one big open world. And that's what this game is. It's an open world game with little different islands to explore and little different like goals and missions to complete. And it all plays through the idea of turning 3D Mario World into this open world game, and it works really well. Bowser's Fury is really fun, and over time you eventually open the world up more and you end up going up to these crazy levels and crazy mechanics, and it works really well. I think Mario's controls in this game are some of the best controls that Mario's ever had, and he's very fluent, plays very well. The power-ups are great. This game also comes with the Cat Bell power-up, which has become one of the essential staples of the Mario games, and it's really cool for that. So yeah, I would check out Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury if I was you. It's also a great multiplayer game. You can play up to 4 people, and it's chaos. I love it. Moving on to the next game, I'm going to be talking about Pokemon Brilliant Diamond. So Pokemon Brilliant Diamond is a game that I actually have a bit of a love-hate relationship with this game. I don't think this is personally one of the best games in the Nintendo series. I think this game is actually pretty poor, actually. So why is it on a Christmas Essentials list? I've said this before in one of my videos, that Pokemon is a series that even if the games are bad, you should still have them, because Pokemon games are so diverse and open to trading and playing with other people and catching Pokemon. There's Pokemon in this game you can catch that don't appear in other games on the Nintendo Switch, and all that kind of stuff. Like, you can get like a Jirachi in this game if you have, say, Pokemon Sword and Shield. Super essential for your Pokemon Pokédex if you're building up a Pokédex. If you want to catch every single Pokemon, you know, this is a game to get, because yes, the game isn't the best Pokemon game ever, but it's still a Pokemon game and it's still pretty fun, like, at heart. This is a remake of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. The only thing about this game that a lot of people criticize it for, it doesn't come with any content from the Platinum remake, remaster of this game, which was originally on the DS. Overall, it's still a good game. Like, it's still Pokemon. Like, Pokemon I always recommend because I love Pokemon. I would still highly recommend adding this to your collection if you haven't got it. I will just say this is probably the weakest Pokemon game on Nintendo Switch in my opinion. I still played through it. It's fine. An essential game. I think it is essential because, like I say, you can get Pokemon in this game you can't get in other games. This game is also great for shiny hunting as well. A lot of people use this to shiny hunt because it's one of the better games when it comes to the Great Underground and stuff like that, and there's a lot of rare Pokemon to find. Generally, the story in Gen 4 Pokemon was actually pretty good anyway. If you have access to the DS versions of this game, I would play them first. They're better. But if you haven't and you really want a Nintendo Switch game, this is one to think about. Next up is Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. Now, this was a 2024 game. This came out this year. This game is awesome. Like, it's genuinely one of the greatest Nintendo games ever made. It's really good. Like, I never grew up with the nostalgia of this game. I don't think it's one of my favorite games I've ever played, but I do think as a Nintendo game, it's really, really great. This is a JRPG Mario game. So Mario in this game is Paper Mario, and Paper Mario is this like 2D version of Mario that exists in this 3D paper world, and it's got a very nice style. Like, it's a comedy game, it's dramatic, it's funny, it's almost like a parody of other games as well. It's a lot of things, Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door. It's a very creative game that Nintendo have thought up and made into a fresh version of this game, as this was originally a GameCube game. It's got a new art style to it. It's been remade, it's been redesigned so it fits with the Nintendo Switch. Yeah, Paper Mario is iconic. Like, as a series, this is probably the most iconic of the JRPGs out of the Mario series. For example, there is Mario and Luigi, and then there's Mario RPG. This is the most iconic series out of them all, the Paper Mario series. And I would say this is probably the most iconic out of the Paper Mario games. Thousand Year Door is often considered to be the best of the Paper Mario games. And while I don't love this game, I do think it's still an amazing game. It's a great game. I think everybody should play this game at least once just to see what Nintendo can do with JRPGs. Because if you're not really familiar with JRPGs, if you've never really played one and you're quite new to gaming, this is a really great start. Get to know the basics and the creative gameplay, for example, the turn-based combat and the surprises that come in the boss fights. And there's a lot of twisted mechanics as well, so things are constantly changing and new ideas are constantly coming up. And the more you progress through the game, obviously it gets better and bigger. The more characters you meet, the more companions you build. So yeah, it's one of those, like, it's a game that it's a bit of a slow burn, but it's a great slow burn because it has a great payoff, and slow burns should always have a payoff. And this game definitely does have a great payoff, and I think once you get to the end point, you know, you feel rewarded for what you've played. Mario can turn into different little like things in this game. For example, like, he can turn into a paper aeroplane to get to different areas of the map and stuff like that. And you know, things are always changing, and there's new weapons and items to pick up and new moves. I think this is definitely one of the best games, if not the best game that Nintendo made in 2024. So there we go. Next up is Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1. Now this is a game. So this game actually comes with 3 games. Now it comes with Metal Gear Solid 1, 2 and 3. And it also comes with 2 games from the Nintendo Entertainment System. This is a really highly sought after game, purely because it comes with 3 of the greatest games ever made. Like, genuinely, Metal Gear Solid 1 is one of, if not the most iconic PlayStation game ever made, and it's on Nintendo Switch. That game changed gaming. It's the greatest action adventure game ever. Tactical espionage game, and what I mean by that is all 3 of these games revolve around stealth mechanics. The basic stories of these games are you go to like a facility, you infiltrate it, it's all stealth, and you've got different tools and weapons to help guide you and help you get through the facilities. One of these games takes place in the jungle, and that is Metal Gear Solid 3. You have to dodge guards, you have to go through the whole facility as stealthily as you can, and eventually throughout the game you'll come across different bosses, and they all have different mechanics to them, and they're all really interesting supernatural villains. And these games are absolutely mental. Like, they are mind-blowing games. Metal Gear Solid 1, like I said, is one of the most iconic games ever made. Metal Gear Solid 2 is a great sequel. While it is probably the weakest in the series, it still is amazing because of how relevant it is today. The concepts and the ideas that game talks about are so relevant with today's kind of world with AI and politics and social media and stuff like that. It's crazy good, like, how Hideo Kojima, who was the director of these games and the creator of Metal Gear Solid. What he was talking about, 20 years ago is leagues ahead of what anyone else was talking about. And Metal Gear Solid 3 then goes on to be like this spy thriller, like this James Bond style game that was from like 1960s, and oh my god, it's crazy. Like, these games are so creative, and the characters in them are some of the greatest characters in any games ever. I love these games. I grew up playing them, and I just generally think these are amazing. Highly essential games, and they're on Nintendo Switch. They still play amazingly. I will just say you will have to have an internet download requirement on this game. I couldn't tell you which game you actually have to download. I think it might be Metal Gear Solid 3. Yeah, you will have an internet requirement on this game, so technically you don't own the game if you buy it physically. You have to still download it from the cloud. It's still Metal Gear Solid. Get it? The next game I'm going to talk about is The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD. Now, this video wouldn't be a video if I didn't talk about at least one Zelda game in this video. Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD. It's not the best Zelda game, but it is one of the best 3D games. Now, it never used to be. It actually used to be a pretty bad Zelda game, in my opinion. On the Nintendo Wii, where the game was originally released, it was, I would say, probably my least favorite mainline Zelda game. Like, it was my least favorite 3D Zelda game. Over time, after they re-released this game on Nintendo Switch with new controls and new graphics overhaul, I learned to love this game, and I actually think this is in my top 10 Zelda games now. It's not in my top 5, but it is in my top 10. But, I really like this game now, and I actually think this is a really, really great Zelda game. So this game actually has one of the best stories in The Legend of Zelda in general. Like, it's really, really strong in its story. It has this relationship storyline with Zelda and Link, and what happens in this game is eventually Zelda will get kidnapped by Girahim, who's the main villain in this game. Link goes on this adventure to the world below, because Skyloft is this world that is basically been lifted from the world below and is a sky island that people live on. Now, this game is before the creation of Hyrule. Hyrule does not exist in this game. Like, it's basically the very start of the timeline in the Legend of Zelda series, and it's one of the most interesting games for that, because it is the story of how the trifecta of Link, Zelda and Ganon become this cycle that keeps on returning and returning and returning over every 100 years or so. This is where to play first. And Skyward Sword is just a very unique game because it doesn't play like any other Zelda game. It plays with motion controls entirely, unless you have this version, which is the HD version. It comes with button controls as well, as it was fixed from the Nintendo Wii version, because the Nintendo Wii version was heavily criticized for having confusing and poorly optimized controls. So this version of the game is the definitive version of the game. It's the best version to play. I love this game. I do generally think it's one of the best Zelda games. Like I say, it's not the best Zelda game ever, but if you want to know anything about Zelda, play this one. It comes with motion controls, and you can play button-only controls. It's not a perfect game at all. It's a bit flawed in parts. For example, if you want to return to Skyloft, you're supposed to go to these bird statues that are placed across the world. However, there is a way to get around that, which makes it easier, and that is if you have an amiibo, which is kind of annoying because it's that feature, which should be a feature in the game anyway, is locked behind a paywall from having an amiibo. Flaws like that do exist in this game. It's still fun, even without that mechanic. The world is fun to explore. It's not my favourite Zelda world to ever explore, but yeah, it's still relatively fun. So choose this game, definitely, if you want to get into Zelda, because it's just a great place to start. Now, before I continue, I do want to say, if you are enjoying this video, please do remember that you can subscribe to this channel. I've got more videos like this one where I talk about essential Nintendo Switch games. So if you are looking for that perfect Christmas gift this year in 2024, or if you're looking just in general for games for yourself to play on the Nintendo Switch, this is the perfect time to subscribe to the channel, because I am literally just talking about Nintendo Switch games, and if you're here at this point, you're probably really interested in that kind of stuff. So yeah, subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to get to 2,000 subscribers, so it really helps out the channel. Next game. So for the next game, I'm going to be talking about a game that I only own digitally, and that game is The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Now, this game is considered to be one of the greatest games ever made. This isn't originally a Nintendo Switch game. It was a PS4 and Xbox One game that has been ported over to Nintendo Switch. Now, I have actually talked about this game before in the past in older videos. Now, this game, to me, is an absolute miracle port. This game should not run on Nintendo Switch. It's crazy that it does, because This game is huge. It is genuinely one of the biggest games ever made. This is Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom on steroids. It is huge. It is massive. Like, it has the greatest quests in any game ever. And this game is weird because it's like, it's a detective game. It's a game that rivals Skyrim. It's a game that is just like Lord of the Rings. It plays like Zelda. It's everything. It really is one of the greatest open world games ever made. Some of the greatest quests. For example, there's the Blood and Wine DLC, which is incredible. This game actually comes with everything installed on it as well. So this is the definitive version of the game, and I really do highly recommend this. It's so good. Like, I've sunk easy 200 hours into this game, and I've never finished it. I've never finished Witcher 3 because it's that big of a game that I just have never had the desire to get to the end of the game, because I get so distracted in the game looking at other quests and side quests. I've got to the point where I've been fulfilled with the game because I've just played so much of it with random things that I've encountered that I've just never actually happened to get to the final part of the game. It's a great game. I really highly recommend it. It's one of the greatest games ever made. Geralt is a great character as well, and Ciri as well. You know, Yennefer and all those characters. Everything is just really well written. I've never played The Witcher 1 or 2. I've only ever played Witcher 3. And I still feel like you don't actually have to play any other Witcher game to really love this game. You can literally just start with The Witcher 3 and just know everything that's kind of happening, grasp the concept as you play, and a fairy tale game that has got this kind of Brothers Grimm style to it, and I really loved this game. If I could play it for the first time again, I would. One of my favourite quests ever is this one where you go to a island and there's like this derelict house that you enter, and there's a mystery about this man who's gone missing. And then eventually you find out that basically he was abandoned there and locked up, and his wife had done it and stuff like this, and his wife had purposely locked him there. He basically left him for dead and paralysed him to the point that rats had eaten his body until he died. And it's quests like that which, you know, as a detective, you know, it's scary and it's horrible and disgusting, but it's awesome. This game isn't 18 plus, by the way, so, you know, you will come across concepts like that which are very dark, and, you know, it's medieval concepts, so everybody loves that kind of like horrible history. While this is fantasy, you know, it's that same kind of, everyone wants to know the gory side of history and medieval stuff, and this is that, like, fantasy, the idea of a witcher, this mercenary that goes around and fends off demons and supernatural beings. You know, that's a really cool concept to me, and I think The Witcher is a really cool character, one of the greatest written characters. And I've always kind of wanted to read The Witcher books. I did try watching The Witcher TV show after playing The Witcher 3. While it was fine for the first season, after that it kind of killed itself, I feel. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is the best of anything Witcher. It really is. Like, and if you want to experience The Witcher, that's the place to go. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is the place to go for your The Witcher fix. So I really highly recommend it. You've got horseback mechanics with Roach as a character, who's your horse. Great concepts. Every quest is really interesting. Every quest feels like a main quest, even the side quests do, and that's an amazing thing about it. So next up, I'm going to talk about the Spyro Reignited Trilogy. So this is a remake of the first 3 Spyro games on the PS1. This game is a bit of a guilty pleasure for me. I really enjoyed these games. While they're not Nintendo games, you know, these are PlayStation games that have been remade and ported to Nintendo Switch. I highly recommend these for the history of them. You know, the concept of this was a game that came out during that era of 90s 3D platformers, 3D mascot games. This was one of the best ones. The first 3 Spyro games were some of the best 3D platformers out there at the time. And these remakes look amazing. They are beautiful to look at. Really, really nice games. Play really well. You will have to download these games from the cloud again. Internet download is required, but I don't think that should stop you from getting these games. Little adventure games, probably roughly like 10 hours each. So there's about 30 hours of gameplay here. If you want that kind of old school PlayStation fix, these are perfect. You know, I really highly recommend these. I played these with my partner and she loves these games. You know, the boss fights are really fun. Special stages where Spyro's flying and you have to guide him around the courses and get the objects as you fly around. They're difficult and really addictive, really well made. There's one stage which everybody knows, and it's called Treetops, and that's in the first Spyro game. While that level is super difficult and really confusing, it's super memorable, and the music is great. Spyro looks amazing in this. I really wish they'd make a new Spyro game, like a proper sequel to these games, a Spyro 4, as you can say. I know there has been Spyro games in the past on like the GameCube and the Xbox and stuff like that, but I would love to see like a new Spyro with this style. If you want a piece of history of 3D platformers, perfect starting place to go. Spyro is controlled like you can dash with him and run, breathe fire, and there's different ways to beat enemies. Like, for example, some enemies have armor, there's some enemies that you have to catch by dashing at them. For example, they've got like these eggs that they're holding, or keys or whatever, and you have to dash and chase them, and they take you on like narrow paths and stuff like that. Things like that which make this game really fun. And then if you also like these games, you may also like my next game, which I'm going to talk about, and that is Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy. Now, these were pretty much the same as Spyro. They came out in that same era of PS1 classics that have been remade. Yeah, these are great as well. Like, these are the first free Spyro games that you can play on the PlayStation. Some of the best, greatest 3D platformers there's ever been. Difficult. These are super difficult. These came out a few months before the Spyro Reignited trilogy. It kind of came out as a double pack, I suppose, both made by Activision. And the idea was to revive the 3D era of PlayStation games. These were, you know, the biggest ones. Spyro and Crash have kind of always been a bit of a duo when it comes to old school 3D platformers. I really highly recommend these games. Crash Bandicoot plays a little bit different. This is more of a trial and error 3D platforming game. The brutality of them is kind of on the level of, like, say, Donkey Kong Country. I would say these are designed to be very devilish and brutal, to the fact that you're supposed to kind of rage quit. That isn't supposed to stop you from like progressing, so but they're also super fun at the same time. Crash is a very iconic character. I really want Crash in the next Smash Bros. Game. I think Crash would be great for that. There's hundreds of levels to play in both games, both Crash and Spyro, and the fact that these games have the graphics they do as well and run so well on Nintendo Switch and look so nice, that's another plus for these games. So really highly recommend these games. Make sure you pick them up because they are super essential. Right, let's go with the next game on my list, and this game is Dark Souls Remastered. Now, Dark Souls Remastered is a game that is, yeah, if you think that I was talking about Crash Bandicoot being brutal, now this is a game where you will die, and you will die a lot. Genuinely, that is what this game is for. If you've never played Dark Souls is this game where the idea is, it's kind of like an adult Zelda game. It's this gigantic open world that you get to play through, and there's giant bosses you get to fight. However, the idea is that you are essentially extremely weak in this game. Like, your character starts off with 0 stats. Like, your character's stats are so bad in this game that the very first enemies you encounter, which are essentially like the Goombas of this game, they are difficult. Like, they will kill you. Over time, as you play, like, the more souls you gain and the more bosses you kill and enemies you defeat over time, and when you learn how to do things like parry and backstabbing, stuff like that, you know, the more you play, the better you'll get at the game, and the more you'll earn, the more souls you'll collect, the more stats you'll build when you find bonfires, which is the checkpoints in the world, because when you die you go to a bonfire, or you're supposed to reset at a bonfire, because that's what happens. Is when you go to a bonfire, it's like your safety blanket. However, the world resets, similar to the Breath of the Wild Blood Moons. Whenever you go to a bonfire in this game, which is the checkpoints, all the enemies that you've defeated, they respawn. So it's a tricky game because the world is so evil. Like, everything wants to kill you in this game. Literally everything wants to kill you. You will hate this game at first because it's so hard. Like, it's a very hard game, but over time you will learn to love the Dark Souls series because it's just so addictive. And when you finally do beat those bosses, you know, you get that dopamine fix, and you feel so proud of yourself because you achieved something, and that is purely from the skill of playing this game. Dark Souls is incredible. Like, as a series, second to none. It's one of the greatest game series ever made. Elden Ring is the most recent game in the series, and it's spawned this like trend of games like Souls-like games. Lies of P, another Crab's Treasure, Wukong Black Myth, you know, all these games that have become inspired by the Dark Souls games. And Dark Souls as well was very highly inspired by the Legend of Zelda series. So I go on about the Legend of Zelda series a lot in my videos because I always say that the Legend of Zelda series is easily one of the most influential game series ever made. Games like Ocarina of Time, you know, and Breath of the Wild they've changed the landscape of gaming, and Dark Souls is one of those games that has been heavily inspired by The Legend of Zelda. And if you like The Legend of Zelda and you're a little bit older, say, than the demographic for first-party Nintendo games, Dark Souls is a great place to go, and I really recommend it. If you've got a Nintendo Switch, Dark Souls Remastered plays really well on Nintendo Switch. This is essentially what is the PS3 version, I would say. It's not really the remastered version. It probably is slightly better than the PS3 version. I would say that this isn't as good as obviously the PS4 version or the Xbox One version, but Dark Souls Remastered it's incredible. I really highly recommend this game. One of the greatest games ever made, in my opinion. And if you've ever played a game like Elden Ring or Sekiro or Bloodborne, this is where the Souls-like series started to really gain traction after, say, Demon's Souls, which was the very first ever kind of Souls-like game. So Dark Souls, you can get it on Nintendo Switch. Extremely brutal, very fun. The bosses are amazing in this game. It does feel a little bit blocky to play, like the controls are slightly sluggish and somewhat clumsy, I suppose, but the game series did progress mechanically and get better. This is where the Dark Souls series started. Get it. And then last for my Nintendo Switch essential games for Christmas in 2024 list, I am going to talk about Nier Automata. And this game is, I actually generally think this is one of my favourite games of all time. It's amazing. I actually played this for the first time on the PS4 back in 2020 when we was in lockdown. I didn't love it at the time. I didn't really like it at first. Like, I didn't get the game. I just couldn't grasp the concept of it. It was confusing to me. But then I replayed it. I then went to Nintendo Switch and re-bought the game and tried to play it again because I wanted to see if I was basically wrong about the game at the time. Was I wrong? Absolutely. This game has changed my life. It's incredible. I actually genuinely think that this is, if any third-party game out there, this is the best third-party game on Nintendo Switch in my opinion. It's so good. This game should not run on here either. It, like I say, it's almost like The Witcher 3. This game shouldn't run on it. It's graphically amazing for a Nintendo Switch game. The music in this game, the gameplay, the action mechanics, the characters, the world, the visuals, 10 out of 10. Honestly, 10 out of 10. Genuinely loved this game. I've put so many hours into this. I think I put at least 100 hours before I fully felt like I was done with the game, because I just wanted to see everything. The world is just incredible. The music, I can honestly say, is some of the most beautiful music I've ever heard in a game in general. Looks amazing on a Nintendo Switch OLED. I think that this game, the characters 2B and 9S and 9A, they are amazing characters. I want 2B to be a character in the next Super Smash Bros. Game. I would love 2B to be a character because 2B is awesome as a character. She goes from being this kind of very monotone, stuck in her ways android that is only focused on the mission, doesn't care about anyone else, doesn't have any personality, and then over time eventually builds a personality as she becomes friends with 9S, who is this like eccentric character who is supposed to be, you know, a bit more kind of open and sees the world differently to 2B. And 2B over time, like I say, becomes more of a character, has more personality. You understand her feelings over time and who she becomes. And then eventually you also meet a character known as 9A, who is the most interesting characters because she has like this really dark story behind her. And then eventually she crosses paths with the other characters and stuff like that. And, you know, you see more and more of this world that opens up and the story behind it and the different interesting ideas and concepts that will, you know, affect you mentally and think about how, you know, things in this world are kind of progressing as a world, like, you know, with AI and politics. And I said this with Metal Gear Solid. This is another one of those games that is just so interesting with ideas and thoughts about how this world is progressing with like technology and stuff like that. And this is essentially this world could become. And I really, really love this game just for the social commentary it has, the ideas and the gameplay and the style and the world. Missions in this that are super dark, but then there's also missions that are like really funny and interesting. One of the coolest places to explore in this game is this kind of like Disneyland world where it's like this abandoned Disneyland. One of the really cool areas of the game, and it's surprises like that with some of the bosses and big gigantic monsters that you fight, or these robotic monsters that you fight. And yeah, it's really cool. I generally think the ending and the villains are awesome villains. Like the boss fights with the main antagonists of the games are really cool, and there's one big gigantic boss fight at the end with this gigantic machine, which is really cool. There's also gameplay in this game which is like on rails bullet hell gameplay, so you're constantly avoiding bullets and you're fighting in the air with these mechs that you use, and yeah, that's really cool. Like, that's also gameplay which you will play and come across, and they're just as fun as the main game and the main gameplay, and I really enjoyed those parts of the game. So if you want really interesting gameplay and world building, characters as well, this game has everything. It has the whole social commentary thing, and it has open worlds, mind-blowing gameplay that looks amazing and feels amazing, and interesting story. This is the game. Like, it's genuinely probably the best third-party game on Nintendo Switch in my opinion. You might have a different opinion on that, but yeah, for me, this was one of the best games on Nintendo Switch, easy. Alrighty then, that is 10 more Nintendo Switch games that I feel are super essential for your Nintendo Switch at this Christmas. If you've enjoyed this video, please do remember to like, comment and subscribe. I would love to know if you guys have got any recommendations for games that I should talk about in future videos. Like I say, I have said this in other videos, that I might make a video at the end of this series about games that you guys have recommended for me in the comments to talk about. So yeah, consider it in the chat. Drop comments in below and let me know what games you would like me to talk about for this essential games series that I'm doing for Nintendo Switch. If you have enjoyed it, please subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to hit 2,000 subscribers, and I really appreciate you guys here. You know, if you've got this far in the video, you are amazing. I really appreciate you. You are the best. So please do continue to watch. And if you have enjoyed this video, check out this video right here. This was the last video in the series, which is also about Nintendo Switch games you should buy for your Nintendo Switch this Christmas in 2024. Thank you for watching. I shall see you for the next one. I will see you for Christmas. Have a good one, guys. Bye.